Chinese electric vehicles are taking center stage at this year's Beijing Auto Show, which began earlier today. Well, the nation's EV sector stands out as a green shoot amid an economic downturn. And it's not just making waves in the world's largest auto market, but also beyond its borders. Foreign car makers as well taking the opportunity to unveil new offerings for the Chinese market. And we have CNA's Olivia Siong bringing us all the details, and she joins us live from the Auto China venue in Beijing. Olivia, first up, take us through all the highlights of day one and also the significance of this, given that it's back after a, 4-year hiatus?
That's right, Tuli. I really wish I could bring you live inside this sprawling exhibition hall where the auto show is taking place, but it's just closed for the day. People still streaming out. Today is the first media preview day, and a lot has happened. We have seen new cars being launched, new technology, new tie-ups, and this is one of the world's largest auto shows. And we have the traditional manufacturers, also startups showing their wares. And what's clear, though, is that electric vehicles are taking center stage over here, and this comes as we have seen in the first half of April this month that the sales of new energy vehicles here in China crossed the 50% mark of new auto sales for the whole of China for the first time ever. But we have to note that competition is intensifying very, very much, and there is a brutal price war going on as well. Tuli.
And Olivia, I guess that's why all eyes are on the Chinese automakers. And I believe you spoke with XPeng, and you also had this one-on-one with co-founder of NIO. And when you were speaking to them, what are their thoughts on this incredibly intense competition?
I'll tell you, perhaps it could be encapsulated in this interesting moment that took place. I was at the NIO exhibition booth, and then we saw the CEOs of other Chinese EV makers from Li Auto, XPeng, as well as Xiaomi, which has just joined the electric vehicle fray, launching its first electric vehicle just about a month ago. They were visiting and making their rounds, talking to the NIO CEO as well, and they were friendly and they were chatting. But the NIO co-founder told me they are very aware that there is competition among them and with this price war going on. But he says this is something they cannot avoid. Have a listen.
如果是一个纯市场机制的竞争，那如果价格战来了，你所需要做的就是面对它。因为今天中国在世界主要的工业国家中，对于汽车和新能源汽车的补贴可能是最少的了，已经。大家是纯粹的都是拿着自己公司的钱去打价格战。那我想我们要做的就是短期的竞争，你不要怕它。从长期来说呢，汽车归根结底还是要回到产品、技术、服务这几个最基本的东西上。我想我们要做的就是把自己应该定位的这个品牌所要求的这些基本功做好。价格战是一个短期应对，更长远还要看公司的实力。
Olivia, seems like there's plenty to break down over there, and I believe you have a guest with you to help you with that.
That's right, Tuli. I'm joined today here at the auto show by Tuli. He's the founder of Sino Auto Insights. Quick take, what are your impressions from today?
So, I didn't realize there were going to be so much media, and you and I talked about this earlier. There seems to be a lot of international media that are here. So, it's almost like a coming out party for a lot of these Chinese brands, because we do know that they've been exporting quite a bit, more on the ICE side than on the EV side. But we also noted that BYD had several international media, and Zeekr, Geely brands had a lot of international media.
But I want to get more into it. We know that there's a lot of tension with the Chinese EV brands, but foreign brands like Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, they're also showing here. How do they stack up with the competition?
So I think showing up was a big thing, because in Shanghai last year there weren't any unveils from the foreign brands, and so this year GM, Volkswagen, Porsche had unveiled the Macan E, the E Macan, which is their electric version. It had been launched globally already, but it was the first time it was shown here. So we're seeing, and one thing that I do note in particular was hearing a lot of German. So that tells me how valuable the German automakers believe the China market to be to them.
But it does come at a tricky time, doesn't it? There's a lot of attention with regard to Chinese EVs and Europe putting that probe into accusations of overcapacity. The US also has those accusations of Chinese industrial overcapacity. How do you think Chinese brands are going to handle that?
Right now, it's difficult to generalize overcapacity because there's likely overcapacity, but more on the petrol engine side than on the EV side. And if you look at the exports from 2023, most of those exports were petrol engine vehicles. A lot of them going to Russia because a lot of the foreign brands have exited that market due to what happened with Ukraine. And, we also heard a lot of Spanish because there seems to be a lot of Latin American media here. So a lot of those exports are going as well into Latin America. So if we look at the diversity of the products and the brands, I think the exports that are coming are terrific products and they're not being dumped on foreign markets. I think it's a huge opportunity and a huge missed opportunity for the foreign brands who aren't prepared to have competitive electric vehicles in the market yet.
But also, one of the things that we have noticed among all the car brands that are showing here, there's one brand that's missing, and that's Tesla. What do you make of that absence?
Well, they have nothing to show. They did have their earnings call this week and mentioned that they will have an affordable EV by the end of this year, early next year. But if you recall, Olivia, the last time they were in Beijing, they had an infamous incident of someone dancing on top of their vehicle. So I think it was better for them to not be a part of this because, I think the lack of being here might not have been as controversial as being here with nothing new.
How would you say this year's auto show, though, compares with previous editions that you have been to? And you also travel around the world to other international motor shows. So what do you make of what you have seen here today and the competition that is really intensifying?
So if the competition was wait times, Xiaomi, I was told you had to wait a half an hour to get into their booth. So Xiaomi by far has created a lot more excitement into the EV sector in an otherwise kind of dreary, price war driven kind of product and brand focused sector. But also I would look at can you ask?
With Xiaomi, do you think that you were saying, how do you think they factor in? Because they're a new player in the market. How does that compare with what you're seeing at other motor shows around the world?
Oh, so as a Detroiter, I'm a little bit disappointed with what the last couple in the United States. I believe Shanghai and Beijing are the de facto motor shows, the only motor shows that really matter, because global brands as well as Chinese domestic brands are unveiling dozens. I think there's 173 unveils at this motor show. So I think it makes it the only ones that matter in the world, unfortunately.
This price war that's going on, though, it is pretty brutal. We heard from NIO, XPeng, they're all saying that they just have to face it. But we are going to see car brands, fall by the wayside as well, some that may not be able to compete. How have you seen brands trying to pivot their strategy so as to be able to survive? And how successful do you think they have been?
The pivot is increasing, is basically trying to export some of that capacity that they can't sell domestically because of the price war. So it's a double-edged sword because there's a lot of pushback from the foreign markets of exporting, but in order to survive, some of the weaker brands, that's the only alternative they have. And so we should hopefully start to see some of those brands go away by the end of 24, beginning of 25, so that if NIO, XPeng, and Li Auto can survive this time frame, they'll be stronger for that. And that should give them a leg up on expansion overseas as well.
And that could possibly mean, I was just talking to XPeng, they said that, that could mean, collaboration with foreign brands perhaps to break into new markets, and it really is about also innovation moving forward, isn't it?
Sure,
So, yeah.
because in the past, there have been French brands that have owned Italian brands and German brands that have owned American brands. So I don't see that changing. A case in point is you had mentioned Volkswagen with XPeng, Stellantis with Leap Motor. Now, are they going to start exporting, European branded vehicles with Chinese IP? That's still to be seen. But if the relationship goes well in China, there's no reason it shouldn't.
Thanks so much, too. We have to leave it there, but I'm sure there'll be plenty more to talk about in the days ahead. For now, back to you, Tuli.
That's a great discussion. Thanks so very much, Olivia. And of course, to your guest, Tuli, who's the founder and managing director of Sino Auto Insights.